Hello, people, and welcome. Some people have been asking me to explain some of these introductions of myself as a metaphysician, spiritualist, and hermeticist. Well, let me reiterate. What a spiritualist is somebody who believes and feels and knows that their spirit is their primary aspect, which means their spirit lives forever. What we are now as we exist as physical beings is temporary. So it is really, the real aspect is really the spiritual side that sets up the physical side to exist in a material world to learn some things for the spirit. That is a spiritualist. I talk to my spirit talks to me, which is a very rare quality. I don't call myself a clairvoyant. The clairvoyant or clairaudient is someone who hears things. Clairaudient hears, clairvoyant sees. I'm not that kind of person because I reject the notion of random people talking in my head. I'm familiar with the voice in my head and I know exactly what it is. And remember the movie Ghost, when Whoopi Goldberg gained the ability to become a clairaudient or a clairvoyant, and next thing you know, ghosts started popping up everywhere. Well, that's the last thing I need. I don't need people coming to me asking me to communicate with their mother who has passed away. I will show you how to do it yourself, but I don't need your passed away mama or uncle or in my head. I'm not comfortable with that. However, I can teach people how to connect with their spirit, and I will show you how to connect with the people you want to connect with. Metaphysician. That's a person who questions initiatives in esoteric truths. Esoteric meaning things you cannot see, things that like how faith can move mountains. The metaphysician is going to want to know how exactly that works. How does prayer work? How does the universe work? Things you can't see are the things that metaphysicians are going to question. I've been doing that since the 70s. Now, the Hermeticist, that's the one that people are not very familiar with. That's the teachings of Hermes the Thrice-Born, who wrote over 2,000 books. He was a scribe of the gods, and with his 7 Hermetic principles, it gives us the ability to understand everything. Those principles are principles of mentalism. Is number 1. That's the quantum mechanics of it all. That's how God communicates with everyone. Then you have the principle of gender. Gender meaning someone has to have you have to have a sex, a male and a female. Now there are some frogs from southern part of Africa which are both genders. They can switch from a female to a male. And maybe that's what God does. What difference does it make? Mother Nature, he could be Mother Nature and not Mother Nature. We have him set up in this book as Mother Nature, and because he can be either or he can be both. So the principle of gender. Then you have correspondence, which basically means the way things work down here are the same way they work up there. You can understand heaven by understanding the principles down here. You have cause and effect. Most people know what that is. Your actions cause a reaction, and what you do today will have an effect on tomorrow. Then there's vibration and rhythm. Those are the 7 Hermetic principles. And now, the show.
If you should awaken
first chapter today is Celestial Affair. Now, this is not an original chapter written by me. It comes from the old Sumerian tablets, from a tablet entitled the Enuma Elish. It is a story of how Earth became Earth and how this solar system was set up initially, and number one, why Earth is one of the most important planets in the universe, simply because of the monatomic gold that it possesses. Gold is a very rare element, and the Elohims of the book of Genesis came to this place just for the gold, and not for it wasn't for wealth of gold. It was the fact that their planet was dying from radiation poisoning, and monatomic pulverized gold blasted into the atmosphere would work as their ozone. This is why the planet has gold here. So this chapter explains how not only human beings have spirits, but so do the celestial bodies. Why wouldn't they? They are full of energy. We are full, we have energy, but not as much as a star or a sun. And there are suns out there that are bigger than 1 billion of our suns. And so these things have very energetic substantialities, and you think that God didn't put feelings in there. They may not move, but actually they move. Matter of fact, they spin around faster than we ever could, and they have relationships with those corresponding planets around them. Again, the principle of correspondence, the same way things happen down here are the same way they happen up here. This chapter is about a love affair between. It wasn't called Earth. This planet was first named by Mother Nature Tiamont, a watery wonder. It didn't become Earth until the Elohims came here and named it after Inerta, the sister of Yahweh. The sister of Yahweh. And that's how the Earth got its name. But before that, it was called Tiamont. So this is Tiamont's relationship with the then son, whose name was Apsu. The relationship between Apsu and Tiamont. Introducing
Chapter 6, A Celestial Affair. One day from out of space, God and the mother heard a cry of great sorrow. Neither had heard or experienced this sound of emotion before, at least not coming from a creation of theirs. Yet it was so, and they came to investigate. It was the son, Apsu, named by Mother Nature because he was small, yet absolutely passionately luminescent and quite brilliant. They knew from his low and slow vibration that he was lost and very lonely. Apsu had indeed aligned himself with several celestial bodies. However, their relationship was superficial, the other planets choosing to favor each other rather than to reach out to the very star that was sustaining their orbits. This was primarily because of the magnificence of the Great Two. The Great Two were the very special planets, one of which had more than 12 satellites that would follow him like a superlative star, longing to cling onto the girth of the already crowded rock of a star. The other was an average-sized orb. However, the most wonderful rainbow-colored rings danced about its equatorial center, surrounding this one. It took a lot for the masculine Apsu to show such emotion, and like a great consoler, the mother of all nature knew just what to do.
Companionship is what you need, my boy,
said Mother Nature. However, Apsu knew not what that meant. So she set out into the darkness, seeking something special for her favorite son. After a time, far beyond 2 galaxies, her eyes were fixed to a point in amazement when she was almost blinded by the most magnificently unique heavenly object she had ever seen. It had to be the most brilliant and spellbinding piece of wonder that had ever been created. Even God was unaware of its splendor. Mother Nature knew not the existence of such an item. The planet was covered entirely with a chemical from the periodic table she had memorized. She remembered the 1 part H molecule and the 2 parts O molecule. Never before had anything so beautiful been observed. The mother of all nature came up with a plan. She would apply the universal principle of rhythm, striking the lovely watery wonder with the same frequency of vibration that emitted from the core of her son Apsu. This way, the two would be drawn together and would naturally seek out each other in rhythm and harmony. Once completed, the only place the two would be comfortable would be in close proximity to one another. They would then become the first stellar couple in the entire universe. They would become the second couple to exist in the mind of God. So, she struck the body of mostly water with Apsu's vibration that would be absorbed like pheromones, totally irresistible, one to the other.
You shall be called Tiamont, and I shall give you this,
said the mother as a bolt like lightning flamed towards her center. Suddenly, the distance between the 2 planets began to decrease as the waters on Tiamont began to rage and tidal and wave. She began to feel the vibration of Apsu, now and forever compelled to seek out the stimulation from what she knew not. She found herself wandering aimlessly throughout space. Then finally, she began to feel a familiar vibration, and she knew that she was fiercely attracted to something, and something aggressive must now be done. As she drew nearer, she began to feel anxious, though she knew not why. Yet, the feeling became greater and greater until she could no longer wait to absorb that which was predestined to arrive. Though Apsu had no eyes, his soul saw her. Though he had no hands, his desires felt her. "Draw nearer, nearer me," cried Apsu through the corporeal matrix in the mind of God. God began to feel the exact same sensation within that he felt when first he and Mother Nature became one. Just to know that this feeling could and would be shared by others brought God and the Mother to create clouds and drop rains of tears and joy onto the planets. The heavens could feel no better. Tiamat began to feel the same, yet her apprehension was great, for she knew that she was truly that special lady and a very exciting girl. The moments seemed like forever. He began to feel Tiamat's moist body as the saltine seas began to slowly stall somewhere in space. Apsu impressed upon Mother Nature to help fulfill his need for her. The mother of all nature knew exactly what was needed, and she eagerly set out in space to find that special thing that would beckon and then impress Lady T.
What would pull Tiamat over the threshold?
Thought Mother Nature, when suddenly she remembered seeing a magnificent golden glow while traveling through galaxies. She observed a small, yet ever so brilliant heavenly body in the distant space. She was determined to find that incredible stellar artifact she once saw and had never forgotten. After what seemed an eternity, There in distant space was found that same sparkling glow, and she attacked it. It was the most unique planet in the entire galaxy, a planet made of the rarest of chemical elements, gold. The mother then struck the small planet with gathered particles from Tiamont's molecular structure, causing quantum entanglement to occur. Something else Mother Nature was required to study, and this time it was exactly what she needed. Because of this, Tiamont and the gold planet instantly began to move nearer as one. A spooky action-like trick in the mind of God. Tiamont began to glow proudly. It was as if Apsu had put a wondrous and superlative ring not only on it, but through it as well. The union between Tiamat and Apsu would, however, not go unnoticed. An intergalactic anomaly had occurred, and a very jealous neighboring planet set course to lay claim on the interstellar honeymooners. The planet Nibiru would draw close orbit to the system every 36,000 years. Such proximity was taking place during the nuptials of Apsu and Lady T. In a fit of rage, Nibiru set forth on a collision course towards Tiamat. There was very little the son Apsu could do to prevent the masculine and testosterone-driven planet from his clandestine will of God. As Tiamat and Apsu began to settle in, the great planet did reach the system of Apsu. Without warning, Nibiru collided with Tiamat on her dark side on one dark yet vibrant morning. Nothing could be done to stop and convince Nibiru to desist. Mother Nature could only watch in horror as she was helpless to save her. God was, of course, aware of it all, but could not interfere. To interfere once would be to interfere always, and for what reason or circumstance would he choose to do so? The collision was extraordinary. Tiamat broke into 4 pieces. The largest would become the planet Venus, while the others, Neptune and Mars. The most intimidating planet of all in the system, Jupiter, sat in steady disbelief as it tightened its modality, protective with its energies wrapped around the planet with the very sexy rings about her girth. The golden planet would become liquefied, then combined with the core like a binder, hardening as it cooled. It merged together with Tiamat with great potentiality. Nibiru would then wander off completely intact, believing that the planets were a celestial scuttle with no salvageable part. Yet Apsu saw beauty, for better or worse, and one planet, though smaller than it was, remained still the only planet in the galaxy with a gold and granite encrusted outer crust.
Outer crust.
For our next chapter, we have life on Tiamat. This is after Mars, Earth broke up into 4 parts, Venus, Mars, Mercury, and then they kind of settled in, and this is when this solar system became what it is today. And this is where the primordial waters started separating into ice, and it started to form mountain ranges and rivers, and that's what this chapter is about. It's about how Mother Nature intervened with God to create the most beautiful planet in as far as we know. I'm sure there's something else out there that is fashioned the exact same way. God would not have created anything this beautiful to be random. You know, the Creator and the angels had too much fun here for this to be just a random act or random occurrence. So, life on Tiamat is where all the chemistry of the planet itself joined in with the molecular structures that were here to develop the kind of species that they have here. So enjoy life on Tiamat.
Chapter 7 Life on Tiamat.
Corporeal life started in many sectors of the galaxy. In the galaxy of the Milky Way, Apsu and Tiamat settled in, with Mercury, Mars, Venus, Saturn, Jupiter, and Neptune circling. The mother of all nature would expand her love by assisting in the creation of the most inhabited planet for corporeal life ever known. She lobbied hard to God to help her fashion the jewel of creation. So pleasant was the weather, the environment, so even were the seasons. The waters were fertile for life abundant, and the land masses were more beautiful than she could ever have imagined. It was the perfect system for ecology and biology's mix. Prior to this point, Tiamat was still mostly water, which made for a magnificent biochemical embryonic fluid able to promote life abundant. This sea life would eventually begin a starting point for more than 17 billion species of life forms that would evolve into land creatures, tree dwellers, and sky gliders. Soon the planet would cool by at least 20 degrees, and land masses on top and bottom would begin to freeze, causing the waters to subside, revealing magnificent land masses. The now gigantic glaciers flowed down planet, shaping mountain ranges and flowing rivers. So wondrous were the sounds of the waters in the streams and rivers that this planet became the favorite place for God to visit to relax his ever so busy mind. Like a dream, he and she would drift off, placing their thoughts on riverbanks and seashores. The two even impressed themselves with themselves. Mother Nature would create new and even more wonderful creatures for the two to enjoy. So creative had Mother Nature become that God began to find more ways and means of spreading some of her creations to other parts of the galaxy. The pastures and plains were great for creatures to graze, and the forests and jungles were rainy and dry, producing an extremely rich environment. The fields and groves were lush with vegetation, vineyards vast with trees of fruits and berries abundant. High were the mountain ranges, deep were the valleys and canyons, with wonderful, majestic, fast and slow flowing rivers, with falls and ponds and pools. The oceans were stocked from the beginning of time through umbilical-like cords that fed the waters through singularities from liquid space, evenly spreading species DNA throughout all corporeal worlds to evolve there. For 2 billion years, God and the Mother brought forth fish and fowl, beasts and dinosaurs of all shapes and sizes. In her primordial waters were created a multitude of species unique to this unforeseen and astonishing place. Tiamat had been given the jewel of gold, now the jewel of life so abundant, so beautiful, so loved. It was here where the first primates would fill the jungles, leaping from tree to tree in playful harmony. There were things that hopped and things that slithered and creeped and crawled and flew and tethered. There were things that burrowed on webs set hanging. There were goats on cliffs with hooves for grasping. They were bats in caves and insects and vast species of rodentia. It was an ecosystem of magnificent wonder that would set a pattern for life everywhere. So plentiful was the nourishment that seemed to fully understand nature's creations, abiding by its principles willingly. They seemed to understand that the sooner they transform, the sooner they too will become more evolved, with spirits much greater and much closer to God and the Mother. It was as if all creation was of one rhythm, with a certain harmony. As the large creatures became extremely large, and the smaller seemed to envy them, believing that someday they too would be born to be as such magnificence.
Thank you for coming, and please subscribe. We have a whole book to go through. We're going to explain each chapter. We're going to bring you beautiful content, and we really would appreciate your subscribing to our channel. We are going to educate the world about how this whole thing came to be. It's all there in that book that was contracted for me to write. My spirit said, Curt, you're going to write this. And I said, no, I'm not. And they said, yes, you are. And after arguing, going back and forth, I said, I'll do it under one condition, if you tell me what to say. And that's how it came to be. So actually, most of this stuff was as new to me as it is to you. We'll have to open our paradigm a little bit to understand all this. But if you want to understand how the universe works and how God works, by the time we finish here, you will have a really good understanding of who God is and why he did all this and how close you are to being a part of God. A lot of people pretend, oh, I have God in me. Well, you don't if you don't realize, if you don't act like it. Some people have something else in them. You can have a lot of things in you. But what you do have is a spirit that is you, which is connected to God. And that's what we're trying to get you close to. Thank you for coming. I love everybody. We'll see you next time.